the sinister truth behind the black-eyed children, and why people still fear opening the door. They appear at night, knocking softly, their voices steady but strangely monotone. Two children, pale and expressionless, stand waiting in the dark. At first glance, they seem lost, vulnerable, maybe even in need of help. But then you notice their eyes, pitch black, with no whites, no pupils, nothing human. For decades, stories of these so-called black-eyed children have spread across America and beyond, each tale whispering the same unsettling truth. Letting them in comes with consequences no one can fully explain. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. It helps us bring you more of these dark stories that hide in plain sight. The legend of the black-eyed children isn't just a creepy campfire tale. It's rooted in countless testimonies, drivers on lonely highways, families at home, even soldiers on duty, each claiming to have faced the same eerie visitors. Some dismiss them as urban legend. Others insist they're real, pointing to strange disappearances and encounters that defy explanation. But the deeper you look, the more the legend unravels into something darker, something that still makes people hesitate when they hear a knock after midnight. The most common version of the black-eyed children legend begins innocently, almost like a ghost story whispered on a sleepover night. Witnesses claim to encounter 2 or sometimes 3 children who look ordinary from a distance, perhaps between 6 and 16 years old, dressed in outdated clothes, standing quietly outside a car window or on a porch. They speak politely, often requesting a ride home or asking to come inside to use the phone. The details change, but the script feels eerily rehearsed, like lines learned too well. At first, nothing seems threatening. It is only when a witness notices her eyes, completely black, with no sclera or iris, that the atmosphere collapses into dread. This is the moment when the story shifts from strange to terrifying. Those who tell the story often emphasize the unsettling aura that surrounds the children. They do not beg or cry, but their insistence grows stronger, more mechanical. Please, just let us in. They repeat, their voice is flat, drained of natural emotion. Some witnesses report a sense of overwhelming fear that has no logical explanation. Others describe feeling paralyzed, unable to move, as though the children were exerting some unseen control. The dread is rarely linked to anything the children actually do, but to the oppressive weight of their presence. That silence, broken only by their monotonous words, becomes a true horror of the encounter. Accounts usually end with the witness refusing entry and shutting the door, or driving away as quickly as possible. Survivors claim they felt an intense wave of relief after escaping, yet the memory haunts them long after. Curiously, no one ever describes what happens when someone does let the children inside. That detail is left hanging, forming the story's most effective cliffhanger. It's this gap, the unanswered question, that gives a legend its viral power. People whisper, "What if someone had let them in?" But the truth is always left unresolved, dangling like bait. This uncertainty keeps the story alive, repeated across forums, late-night radio shows, and YouTube videos. The black-eyed children legend has become one of the internet age's most enduring urban myths. Stories surged in the late 1990s, amplified by early online communities where personal encounters spread unchecked, mutating and growing with each retelling. Unlike older legends rooted in folklore, this one carries the atmosphere of modern paranoia. Home invasions, strangers at the door, the fear of being targeted when you are most vulnerable. By wrapping itself in these everyday anxieties, the tale managed to root itself deep into collective imagination. Each new account mirrors the old, as though the children themselves were carefully ensuring their myth never dies. The mini twist of the story is a paradox. Everyone agrees that the danger lies in opening the door, yet no verifiable account exists of what happens if you do. This missing piece is precisely what makes the story feel unfinished, suspended in permanent suspense. It lures the audience into speculating endlessly, filling the silence with their own darkest fears. And perhaps that is the real power of the black-eyed children. By giving us no answers, they force us to imagine outcomes far worse than anything a legend could describe. While most people believe the black-eyed children are a modern internet invention, echoes of their description stretch much further back. In Native American folklore, tales speak of dark-eyed spirits who wandered at night, seeking entry into homes to steal warmth and life. In Europe, medieval chronicles mention pale children with coal eyes who appeared during times of famine, knocking at cottages and vanishing when refused. These accounts never call them by the same name, but the motif, a childlike figure with unnatural eyes asking for shelter, appears across centuries. Such continuity hints that the modern black-eyed children may not be a brand new myth, but the resurfacing of something far older. The legend began to crystallize in the 1990s with reports in Texas, when journalist Brian Bethel claimed 2 children approached his car at night, asking for a ride. He felt a surge of inexplicable terror, and when their faces leaned close to the window, their eyes were entirely black. Bethel's account went viral in early online forums, sparking waves of copycat stories. What makes his testimony stand out is its specificity. Details of the children's outdated speech, their calculated politeness, and the sudden psychic dread he felt before fleeing. This story became the seed that grew into the cultural phenomenon we now recognize. But here lies a mini twist. Although Bethel's encounter is the first official case, researchers discovered that stories with nearly identical patterns circulated in small-town newspapers decades earlier. In the 1950s, reports from Appalachia spoke of children with shark eyes asking to come inside barns. In the 1970s, military police in Nevada claimed strange children appeared near a base, disappearing when challenged. These accounts suggest the phenomenon predates the internet and was not merely invented for digital campfire stories. Instead, the black-eyed children may represent a recurring archetype, a symbol that resurfaces whenever society faces deep anxieties about outsiders and the unknown. Culturally, the legend fits a broader fear that runs through American life: the fear of invasion and vulnerability at home. In post-war suburbs, doors were meant to symbolize safety, yet the stories remind us that danger can knock politely, disguise an innocence. This taps into universal anxieties, about trusting strangers, about children not being what they seem, about the boundaries between private safety and public threat. It also reflects generational fears: Cold War spies in the 50s, satanic panic in the 80s, internet predators in the 2000s. Each retelling rebrands the black-eyed children to match society's current paranoia. The hook here is unsettling. If this figure has been recorded in so many eras and places, then what exactly are people seeing? Are they spirits, aliens, demons, or simply a mirror of human fear? By showing how the legend has appeared throughout history, the story deepens. It is no longer just a spooky internet tale, but something that has haunted humanity repeatedly. And that realization forces the audience into a darker curiosity. If the stories always return, what happens when they knock again tonight? The darker roots of the black-eyed children legend strip away the campfire polish and leave only raw terror. In these lesser-known versions, the children are not simply eerie visitors at a doorstep, but harbingers of misfortune. Folklore whispers that those who allowed them inside were never seen again, their homes abandoned with doors ajar, as though time itself had stopped. Some traditions claim livestock would be found dead in barns after the children appeared, their eyes glazed black, mirroring the intruders. These stories rarely circulated widely, perhaps because they offered no comfort, no survivor's testimony, only silence left behind. And in that silence lies the sharpest blade of the legend. Ancient parallels exist. In Celtic lore, beings called changelings, children swapped by fairies, were often described with unsettling eyes and detached voices. Unlike the playful tricksters of modern tales, changelings drained households of health and fortune. The black-eyed children mirror this archetype, but with a modern twist. Instead of being left in cradles, they come knocking at night, asking to be welcomed in. That small act of consent, opening the door, becomes a fatal mistake. Here the mini twist emerges. Legend suggests that refusal keeps you safe, but acceptance binds you to their world, one from which no one returns to tell the tale. Witness accounts, though sparse, hint at aftermaths darker than the sanitized internet versions. Some say that after refusing the children, they experience weeks of illness, technological malfunctions, or haunting whispers near their windows. In rare lost stories resurfacing from the 1980s, entire families reportedly vanished after neighbors recalled children knocking at their doors. Police chalked them up to disappearances, but folklore collectors connected the dots. If true, this flips the comforting narrative. Maybe even refusing the children does not guarantee safety, only survival long enough to spread the warning. That notion deepens the dread, leaving no clear way out. Religious interpretations enter here too. Demonologists point to the children's black eyes as a sign of possession or inhuman origin. Unlike vampires, who are repelled by holy symbols, the children ignore such protections. They do not break in by force. They wait for permission. This echoes ancient beliefs about evil needing consent, a voluntary opening of the threshold. But if that is true, then the real horror is not in the children themselves, but in the weakness of human compassion. The instinct to help a child in need becomes a very trap that seals your doom. This inversion turns an act of kindness into destruction, corrupting one of the most sacred moral impulses we hold. And perhaps the most disturbing thread comes from those who suggest the black-eyed children are not supernatural at all, but human experiments gone wrong. Children altered, conditioned, and released as tests. Such theories claim that government files mention black-eyed subjects with suppressed emotions. Though speculative, these ideas feed into conspiracy culture, giving the legend a sinister modern face. Whether spirits, demons, or failed human projects, the conclusion remains chillingly open-ended. If you hear them knocking, refusal might not save you, but opening the door could mean vanishing into the abyss without a trace. The black-eyed children legend, when stripped of its supernatural skin, reveals a symbolic core that resonates with universal human fears. The most obvious symbol is their eyes, completely black, swallowing all light. Eyes are traditionally the window to the soul, and their absence suggests an emptiness, a void where humanity should be. In psychological terms, they embody the terror of encountering innocence corrupted, childhood transformed into something alien. This inversion unsettles us because it attacks the very foundation of trust. Children are supposed to represent purity, yet here they are the carriers of dread. The darkness in their gaze is not just visual. It mirrors a fear facing a human being who has lost all trace of compassion. Their insistence on being invited inside offers another layer of meaning. On one level, it echoes folklore about evil requiring consent, a reminder how vulnerability often comes from within. But symbolically, it represents a trial of boundaries. Do we let strangers into our personal space, into our trust, into our lives? The legend becomes a cautionary tale about the danger of surrendering boundaries too easily. In a society where people fear both isolation and intrusion, the black-eyed children embody the paradox, the longing to help versus the instinct to survive. This is why their knock feels so heavy. It is not just on the door, but on our conscience. The silence surrounding their ultimate purpose may be the most haunting element. Unlike other myths that provide resolutions, kill the vampire, banish the ghost, this one withholds answers. The silence forces a listener to imagine the worst-case scenario, creating an open wound of speculation. Psychologically, this functions as a mirror of trauma. Events that cannot be explained or closed off linger endlessly in the mind. The black-eyed children become less about an external monster and more about the unresolved terrors each person carries. They embody the things we cannot rationalize, the experiences that keep us awake at night without closure. Even the children's outdated clothes, often noted in testimonies, carry symbolic weight. They are anachronistic, displaced from time, suggesting something unfinished or trapped. It is as though they are reminders of forgotten generations, the unwanted, the marginalized. This detail can be read as a metaphor for the ghosts and neglected past returning to demand attention. Their monotone speech, too, strips away individuality, turning them into archetypes rather than real children. They are less like people and more like symbols moving through the world, faceless stand-ins for fear itself. That ambiguity is what allows the legend to thrive across cultures. In the end, the black-eyed children function as both story and warning. They test the boundaries of compassion. They symbolize a horror of innocence turned inside out, and they remind us that evil often asks politely before it enters. The true trial is not surviving them, but confronting what they represent. The cost of trust, the fragility of safety, and the haunting silence of unanswered questions. Their power lies not in action, but in implication. And that silence, the unanswered knock, lingers louder than any scream. The black-eyed children endure not because of what they do, but because of what they leave unsaid. Every telling ends the same way. Someone slams the door, drives away, or retreats into silence. And it is in that silence that the legend thrives. The children represent unfinished fears, the questions that never find answers. Did they mean harm? Were they human? What happens if you let them in? No story provides certainty. This deliberate incompleteness forces a listener to participate, to fill the void with their own darkest imagination. That is why the legend has lasted decades, because it never ends. On a deeper level, the children embody the universal fear of betrayal by innocence. A knock at the door from a child should evoke compassion, not dread. Yet here, compassion becomes a very trap. This inversion is why the stories strike so hard. They turn kindness into weakness, safety into danger, and home into a threshold of terror. It is not just a ghost story. It is a test of human instinct. Would you help? Knowing help could mean doom? That impossible question lingers longer than any jump scare, haunting us precisely because it could happen at our own doorstep. The unresolved nature of the black-eyed children ties into cultural paranoia that has never faded. We live in an age where doors are locked tighter, strangers inspire suspicion, and trust feels fragile. This legend crystallizes that fear into a single image: two children standing quietly, waiting. They do not break down barriers. They simply wait for you to lower them yourself. That image alone is enough to feed nightmares. It is powerful because it reflects reality. The danger often lies not in the invader, but in the invitation. And so, when people say they still fear opening the door, it is not just about the legend. It is about life itself. Every choice carries risk. Every act of trust could backfire, and every silence hides consequences we may never see. The black-eyed children, whether spirits, demons, or inventions, remind us of the eternal truth. Evil rarely arrives screaming. It whispers, it knocks, it waits. And sometimes, it wears the face of innocence. That is why, even now, people pause before answering a knock in the dark. The story closes with the same haunting question it began with. What would you do if you heard them at your door tonight? Would you turn the lock and hide, or open it to the unknown? The legend offers no resolution, and that is its gift. It leaves us uneasy, looking at our own front doors differently, and imagining that somewhere beyond the glass, two pairs of black eyes are still waiting.